Hello, everybody. We are going to continue chapter 3, part 2 here. Okay, so remember, this chapter is titled Seat Work, and these kindergarteners are learning how to write their names. So let's start off in the middle of chapter 2. Ramona wished she had a K in her name so that she could give it a nice straight back. Ramona enjoyed Miss Binny's description of the letters of the alphabet and listened for them while she worked. In front of her, Susan played with her curl while she worked. She twisted it around with her fingers, stretched it out, and let it go. Boing, thought Ramona automatically. Ramona, let's keep our eyes on our work, said Miss Binny. No, Davy, D faces the other way. Once more, Ramona bent over her paper. The hardest part of her name, she soon discovered, was getting the right number of points on the M and N. Sometimes her name came out Ranoma, but before long she remembered that 2 points came first. Good job, Ramona, said Miss Binny, the first time Ramona printed her name correctly. Ramona hugged herself with happiness and love for Miss Binny. Soon she was sure she would be able to join her letters together and write her name in the same rumply grown-up way that Beezus wrote her name. Remember, Beezus is her older sister. Then Ramona discovered that some boys and girls had an extra letter followed by a dot. Miss Binny, why don't I have a letter with a dot after it? She asked. Because we have only one Ramona, said Mrs. Binny. We have 2 Erics, Eric J, Eric Jones, and Eric Ryan. We call them Eric J and Eric R because we don't want to get the Erics mixed up. Ramona did not like to miss anything. Could I have another letter with a little dot? She asked, knowing that Miss Binny would not think she was pestering. Miss Binny smiled and leaned over Ramona's table. Of course you may. This is the way you make a Q. A nice round circle. Sorry, guys. A nice round, where am I? Sorry. A nice round circle with a little tail like a cat. And there is your little dot, which is called a period. Then Miss Binny walked on supervising seat work. Ramona was charmed by her last initial. She drew a nice round O beside the one Miss Binny had drawn, and then she added a tail before she leaned back to admire her work. She had 1 balloon and 2 Halloween hats in her first name and a cat in her last name. She doubted if anyone else in the morning kindergarten had such an interesting name. The next day at seat work time, Ramona practiced her cue while Miss Binny walked around helping those with S in their names. All the S's were having trouble. No, Susan, said Miss Binny, S stands up straight. It does not lie down as if it were a little worm crawling along the ground. Susan pulled a curl and let it spring back. Boing, thought Ramona. My, how many S's we have that are crawling along like little worms, remarked Miss Binny. Ramona was pleased that she had escaped S. She drew another Q and admired it a moment before she added 2 little pointed ears. And then she added 2 whiskers on each side so that her Q looked the way the cat looked when crouched on a rug in front of the fireplace. Oh, so look what she did to her Q there, guys. See that? So she's adding some effects. How pleased Miss Binny would be. Miss Binny would say to the kindergarten, what a splendid Q Ramona has made. It looks exactly like a little cat. No, Davy, Miss Binny was saying, a D does not have 4 corners. It has 2 corners. One side is curved like a robin redbreast. This conversation was so interesting that Ramona was curious to see Davy's D for herself. She waited until Miss Binny had moved away before she slipped out of her seat and over to the next table to look at Davy's D. It was a great disappointment. "That D doesn't look like a robin," she whispered. "It doesn't have any feathers. A robin has to have feathers." She had watched robins pulling worms out of her front lawn many times. They all had feathers on their breast, like little soft feathers mused by the wind. Davy studied his work. Then he scrubbed out half his D with an eraser and drew it in a series of little jags. It did not look like Miss Binny's D, but it did look, in Ramona's opinion, more like the front of a robin with feathers mussed by the wind, which was what Miss Binny wanted, wasn't it? A D like a robin redbreast. "Good work, Davy," said Ramona, trying to sound like her teacher. Now maybe Davy would let her kiss him. "Ramona," said Miss Binny, "in your seat, please." She walked back to look at Davy's work. "No, Davy, didn't I tell you the curve of a D is as smooth as a robin redbreast? Yours is all jagged." Davy looked bewildered. "Those are feathers," he said. "Feathers like a robin." "Oh, I'm sorry, Davy, I didn't mean." Miss Binny behaved as if she did not know quite what to say. "I didn't mean to show each feather. I meant you make it smooth and round." "Ramona told me to do it this way," said Davy. "Ramona said a robin has to have feathers." "Ramona is not the kindergarten teacher." Miss Binny's voice, although not exactly cross, was not her usual gentle voice. "You make your D the way I showed you, and never mind what Ramona says." Ramona felt confused. Things had such an unexpected way of turning out all wrong. Miss Binny said a D should look like a robin redbreast, didn't she? And robins had feathers, didn't they? So why wasn't putting feathers on a D all right? Davy glared at Ramona as he took his eraser and scrubbed out half his D a second time. He scrubbed so hard he rumpled his paper. "Now see what you did?" he said. Ramona felt terrible. Dear little Davy, whom she loved so much, was angry with her, and now he would run faster than ever. She never would get to kiss him. And even worse, Miss Binny did not like D's with feathers, so she probably would not like Q's with ears and whiskers either. Hoping her teacher would not see what she was doing, Ramona quickly and regretfully erased the ears and whiskers from her Q. How plain and bare it looked, with only its tail left to keep it from being an O. Miss Binny, who would understand that Santa Claus in the chimney would make a fireplace smoke, might be disappointed if she knew Ramona had given her Q ears and whiskers, because lettering was different from drawing pictures. Ramona loved Miss Binny so much she did not want to disappoint her. Not ever. Miss Binny was the nicest teacher in the world. Okay, so that's chapter 3. So Ramona makes a good point there. She reflected and she realized lettering is different than drawing pictures, right? When we do letters, we don't do little drawings on them, but when we draw, that's when we could get creative with it. So that is our chapter. The next chapter will be chapter 4, The Substitute. I can't wait to see what happens. Bye, guys.